Welcome to Bible in Reflection. Welcome to Bible in Reflection. May this be a moment of surrender, inner silence, and encounter with the one who continues to speak through his living word. Let the Holy Spirit lead your mind and heart, and may every word read become sustenance and direction for your journey. Today we will reflect on the theme, the wilderness crossing, trials that forge faith. We will talk about the arid path that molded Israel, about the process that transforms slaves into children, about how God uses scarcity to reveal dependence and the journey to reveal the heart. The wilderness was not punishment. It was a school. The wilderness was not abandonment. It was a place of revelation, providing bread, water, shade, and direction. It is there that God teaches who He is and who we are without Him and with Him. When Israel left Egypt, they left free, but not ready. God could have led them by a short path to Canaan, but He chose to lead them by the longer, harder, and humanly impossible path. Not because He took pleasure in seeing them suffer, but because there was something greater than the arrival. There was the process. In Egypt, they learned to work as slaves. In the wilderness, they would learn to live as God's people. We often ask God to take us quickly to the destination, but He leads us by the road that transforms. Because the promise cannot find us immature. The blessing cannot rest in a heart that does not yet trust. The promised land cannot be delivered to those who still think and live as captives. Exodus tells us, "And it came to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God led them not through the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near, but God led the people about, through the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea." Exodus 13 verses 17 and 18. God did not choose the easy path. He chose the necessary path. There are wildernesses that God does not prevent in our history, because in them we learn to hear the voice, to depend on the bread that comes from above, to follow the cloud that guides, to stand when the ground is dry. It is in the wilderness that faith ceases to be theory and becomes breath. The wilderness reveals who God is, but it also exposes who we are. When water is lacking, we show where we place our trust. When bread runs out, we reveal to whom we extend our hands. When the journey is long, we show if we follow by faith or by sight. Israel murmured when they were thirsty, complained when they were hungry, questioned when they did not understand the route. And yet God did not abandon them. He responded with water from the rock, with manna from heaven, with a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. The faithfulness of God does not depend on the balance of our faith. It depends on His love. Hunger came. The dust rose with the hot wind, and the desert seemed endless. Then the people murmured against Moses, against God, against their destiny, and God responded with bread, not from the soil, but from heaven, not produced by human hands, but offered by grace. Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you. Exodus 16 verse 4. Manna was not just food, it was a lesson. God did not give bread in abundance for the entire month. He gave daily portions. Whoever tried to save it for the next day saw the bread rot. It was as if God said, "Do not live on the leftover miracle of yesterday. Depend on me today." Such is faith, daily, not stored. Faith is not a deposit, it is breath. We cannot live on the spiritual food of another season. We need the presence today, the seeking today, the fresh manna that renews, sustains, and transforms. God does not want us to survive on the memory of what He did. He wants us to walk with Him in constant movement. The wilderness teaches that God is sufficient, not when we have much, but when we only have Him. Little by little, Israel learned that sustenance would not come from circumstances, but from presence. The wilderness has no bread, no lasting shade, no security. The wilderness has God, and He is more than enough. And so, as the people walked through the vast sands, carrying a recent freedom and a faith still in formation, God continued to teach. Every morning the manna poured out like a silent miracle, like a daily message written with mercy. I am here. I am the sustenance. You do not walk alone. But the wilderness is vast, and even when the feet have bread, There are days when the soul is thirsty, and it was in this deep thirst that God showed them his power once again, because when the water ran out, the cry rose up, despair took form, and the human heart showed its fragility. Yet Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord answered. From the dry, hard, improbable rock, abundant water sprang forth, water in the place that could never offer water, life where before there was only death. The scripture says, And Moses cried unto the Lord, and the Lord said unto Moses, Smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. Exodus 17, verses 4-6. The rock opened, and with it, understanding also opened. What is impossible for man is simple for the God who governs deserts and seas. And so the wilderness, which seemed like a place of lack, became the place of the greatest provisions. Because in Egypt there was food, there was water, there was shade, but there was no freedom, no presence, no covenant. Freedom costs process. Faith costs wilderness. The promise costs journey. The dry journey molds the soul that will one day tread on a land flowing with milk and honey. Nothing that Israel experienced in the crossing was waste. The burning sun taught resilience. The emerging hunger taught dependence. The shade of the cloud taught direction. The night fire illuminated the valley of fear and said that even in the darkness, the presence does not withdraw. The entire wilderness was a living message, as if heaven repeated daily, I am with you, do not fear, follow me. And there was something even deeper happening, something that was not seen with natural eyes. The wilderness was not just changing the people's path, it was changing their heart. Because Egypt can leave the body quickly, but leaving the heart is a process. Israel crossed the Red Sea in one night, but it would take years for the slave mentality to be broken, for fear to be replaced by trust, for murmuring to become worship. The crossing revealed a patient God who does not abandon the weak, who does not forget the weary. Even when the people complained, he remained. Even when the people doubted, he provided. Even when the people went astray, he guided. Because God does not form warriors with comfort, but with wilderness. He does not form faith with immediate answers, but with daily dependence. He does not mature the spirit with abundance, but with the necessity that draws us closer to him. And the wilderness continued, long, silent, challenging, days without change, months without apparent progress, years without seeing the promised land approach. And therein lies one of the greatest spiritual lessons of the crossing. Faith is not proven in moments of glory, but in periods of persistence. It is easy to believe when the sea opens and the enemy is defeated. It is difficult to keep believing when everything is the same, when nothing seems to happen, when the promise seems distant and the sky seems silent. But true faith is revealed not at the beginning of the journey, but in the persistence of it. Believing when you feel is easy. Believing when you do not see is the wilderness, and it is also maturity. And perhaps here is the most intimate part of this story. The wilderness makes man look within. There are no distractions there, no human pillars, no resources that sustain the soul. There is only God, or the perceived absence of him, who calls us to seek him more. The wilderness asks, who do you trust? And the heart answers not with words, but with posture. It is when the path is arid that faith needs to decide, stop, return to Egypt, or continue trusting. Israel wavered many times. We also waver, but God, with eternal patience, guides step after step, because he knows that the process is part of the miracle. The goal is not just to reach the promised land, it is to arrive ready to inhabit it. And so we continue with Israel, now walking through the wilderness, no longer as slaves, but as a people in formation. Freedom had been conquered, but character, faith, trust, and obedience still needed to be molded. The wilderness is that silent place where God speaks loudly, where the sky seems distant, but is actually closer than ever. The crossing is not a punishment, but a spiritual classroom, where every step reveals who we are and in whom we trust. It is not just about walking on sand and rocks, but about learning to walk with a heart surrendered to the one who guides day and night. Israel was no longer the same people who cried under the whip of Egypt. Now, they would learn to live under God's direction, sustained by the invisible, guided by the inexplicable, secured in the eternal. The wilderness exposes the inner self. When water is lacking, discouragement speaks loudest. When the heat intensifies, the soul is revealed. When bread does not exist, murmuring approaches. And so it was with Israel, who often questioned, feared, retreated inwardly, desiring the false security of slavery instead of the uncertainty of freedom. How often are we like that too? We prefer known chains to unknown paths that require faith. The wilderness crossing reveals that the freedom given by God needs to be sustained by constant trust, daily dependence, total surrender. The promised land does not arrive quickly because deep promises require deep preparation. God did not just want to take Israel out of Egypt. He wanted to take Egypt out of Israel. A people liberated in body could still be imprisoned in mind, and the wilderness came to break internal chains that even Pharaoh could not see. However, even in the midst of complaints, God did not abandon his people. When bread was lacking, he sent manna. When water was lacking, he made it spring from dry rocks. When weariness weighed them down, his presence guided them as a pillar of cloud and fire. The wilderness teaches us that God is not just the one who liberates, he is the one who sustains. He doesn't just open seas, he feeds in the void. He doesn't just overthrow enemies, he strengthens when we have no strength. Every morning in Israel was a lesson. The bread fell only for today, never for tomorrow. It was as if God said, "Trust me daily, I am your sustenance. Do not hoard, do not worry about the future, rest." And so the wilderness invites us to live one day at a time, with our eyes fixed not on what we have, but on the one who provides. The journey also taught that promises do not cancel processes. God promised a land, but he did not promise the absence of struggle. The people faced thirst, hunger, enemies, fears, uncertainties. And yet, with every challenge overcome, faith was strengthened, like a muscle that grows with effort. Faith does not develop in flowered gardens. It is born in arid terrain. It does not grow in stability. It blossoms in the improbable. The wilderness thus becomes the place where God transforms slaves into children, fugitives into warriors, crowds into a nation. No true promise comes ready-made. God patiently stitches it, line by line, within us. And then we understand. The wilderness was an act of love, not to destroy the people, but to prepare them, not to make them die, but to make them live better. Every stumble, every cold night, every morning of manna, every thirst that preceded the miracle, everything was part of the divine shaping. The people would learn there that faith is not just believing. It is continuing to walk even when nothing makes sense. It is rising even when tired. It is waiting even without seeing. It is trusting even when the heart wants to give up. The wilderness is the place where God transforms future promises into internal convictions, where he presents himself not as a distant idea, but as a daily companion, where we discover that he is everything, even when we lack everything. And so we come to the central point of this crossing. God does not lead us to the wilderness to lose us, but to find us. There, where our resources end, his begin. There, where our strength ceases, grace becomes perfect. There, where there is nothing else, he reveals himself as everything. The people who enter the wilderness are not the same ones who leave. Those who enter carry memories of Egypt. Those who leave carry the marks of the eternal. Those who enter are still dependent on the visible. Those who leave have learned to trust in the invisible. The crossing is not about the wilderness, but about who we become by crossing it. If today you are walking through dry terrain, know this: God has not abandoned you. The same one who opened the sea is the one who feeds in the silence. The same one who liberated is the one who sustains. The promise remains real, even when your eyes cannot see it. The wilderness is the hallway between slavery and the promise. It is not the end, but the way. And as you walk, he walks with you. We have reached the end of another Bible sayings for today. May the message inspire and strengthen your faith. We hope this portion of the word has touched your heart. To continue receiving these daily moments of reflection, subscribe to the channel. Leave your comment about what impacted you the most, and don't forget to share so more lives can be reached by the word. We are counting on you. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.